Hello everybody, I'm Dan here from the Hammer Game Channel. Welcome back to Kaiserreich and to the Dominion of Canada. We have played as them in the past, of course, but that was back when the tree had not been changed. So, you know, since then, the tree has been reworked. And it now looks like this. Actually, I could zoom out. It now looks like this. It seems like it's a lot smaller. Which I think it is, because let's be honest, the draft Bill C had things after it, whereas it finishes at the little part of the tree. Obviously, we do have to wait until King George dies, which will be soon. We do have a whole bit here again for the return of the king. We can do the Canadian referendum, which I guess means Canada splits off, goes their own way, gets their independence, and forges their own new path. Or we can do loyalty to the Empire and basically, well, invest in them. Well, those things. A new generation of officers as well, because obviously we have to fill the void in, the gaps in our army that the British generals will leave when they return home. So we also have a bit of dealing with the Americans. So we'll probably try and get New England. And I guess we may support the USA. We'll see what happens. But anyways, let's go ahead and look at our production. We do have 18 divisions actually. We'll sort these guys out. First, we have 18 divisions, which isn't too shabby. Templates we've currently rocking. Actually, what are you? A 6 and 1 with engineers. I think infantry division. Yep, you can go because that is pointless. Division 2 will change in Division 1. We have the Militia Brigade, the RCMP, a couple of Marines. We don't need the Garrison one. We'll keep the Armoured Division. Or actually, we might keep the Motorized Brigade. Nope, we'll keep the Armoured one. Right, now to production. So I do want to have tanks, motorized, infantry equipment, artillery, support, fighters, close air support, tactical bombers, and naval bombers. Probably all good stuff actually. We'll keep all of that. And we'll get some dreadnought hulls in production. And we'll get some light ship hulls. And we'll get some improved submarines as well. Some convoys. And I think we'll go for you as well. Actually, no, let's not go for you. What we'll do is we'll get another lot of you in production. Right, we're definitely going to have to get some more dockyards because this will not suffice. There we go, that is what I want eventually. Now as for you, I do want to get at least 10 on you. We'll get 3 on you. 3 in each of those. I'm going to spam out planes. I don't know if we're going to go ahead and actually strike the Germans, but we shall see. Right, let's actually get proceeding, shall we? So, this is our decisions right now. We've got the Home Isles section, which obviously is retake the Home Isles. So that just gets us to declare war on the Union of Britain. However, we do have to have all owned states are currently also controlled and has completed focus Project Plow. Project Plow. The current situation has been 10 years since the collapse of the United Kingdom in 1926, and in the time the king, the remnants of the British government, and over 1 million of the empire's best and brightest and wealthiest have fled to Canada, with a clear expectation that an invasion would soon be launched to take back the Home Isles when the Syndicalist upstarts. It quickly became evident, however, that the Syndicalist position was stronger than anticipated. Early forays were rebunked, and the last decade has seen Europe Britain become solidified and entrenched. The exiles, as they're called in Canada, have meanwhile been left adrift, determined to take back their homeland, but facing the political reality that this may never happen. Right, where is Operation Plow? Oh, Project Plow. Right here. Unlocks the decision to retake the Home Isles. Also gives us 2 times 100% research bonuses for marine technology and transport models. That creates an intelligent agency for us. Invasion focus. Oh, okay. Dress the army. Right, we'll have a look at all this later. Okay, well, initially welcome with open arms by Canadians. The notion this might be a long-term arrangement has been increasingly unpleasant one. Fingers were pointed and blame laid on those who were deemed responsible for the collapse and the subsequent inability to rectify matters, and resentment against exiles, who were soon seen as a higher class in the Dominion as well as above the law, has been growing. In 1931, a year after their election, the minority government of R.B. Bennett and his Conservatives collapsed, to be replaced by Mackenzie King and the Liberals, with a promised focus on Canadian sovereignty and keeping the British government in exile at arm's length rather than acting as if nothing had changed in the relationship. Okay, so Mackenzie King is here right now. This year, Mackenzie King and the Liberals are nearing the end of their term, and on top of their tribulations of the Great Depression, there is growing criticism that little progress has been made in resolving the political situation. George V lies on his deathbed, charging the exiles and the Conservatives with bringing the Empire back on track. His government clashes often with the Liberals, and the Canadian public appears to split between those who would see matters come to a head and those who would prefer to abandon their ties to the Crown and the French exiles in Africa both. The upcoming election appears as if it will be the most divisive in Canadian history. Okay, there we go. We've set the scene. Let's just get moving now. So we've got Montgomery, Ironside, and Crerar. And there goes... oh, we deserve a voice. Hopefully we'll get one. And we've got 3 decent field marshals. Obviously, I think the majority of them will return home once we retake the UK. And we have Claude Auchinleck, who of course is going to be taking care of our army for the time being. Now, back into decisions, because we got distracted by Project Plow. So we can mute, not mute that, but just... what's it? De-expand, collapse, there we go. And collapse that for now. And the legislation... the Legations Council, sorry, we're not actually a part of this right now, so we don't care for that. Don't need any of this and that. So we do have the influence of monarchy, and the influence of the British Isles as well. Oh, here goes King George. In the last several months, King George has been plagued by illness and his health has been falling. This fact has been kept from the public to keep up appearances while treatments were attempted, but it seems all was for naught. At 11:55 PM yesterday, the King died following a bout of severe fever. His eldest son and heir apparent, Prince Edward, has inherited the throne as Edward VIII and is expected to address the nation within the month. An official coronation will take place in several months' time, after an official mourning period of King George has been observed. So the Empire enters a state of mourning, we lose some stability, and it unlocks the King's speech focus, which we will go ahead and grab. And obviously King Edward is now here as well. And he currently also loses -5 stability, because his autocratic tendencies do gain war support and political power gain, and that AI modifier focus on offence +25. Not that that really matters to us. Well, the envoy from Transamur. Today, an envoy from the petty militia unit of Transamur has come to visit His Majesty King Edward. In his speech, the envoy informed us about King George's previous support of Kolchak's 1925 unsuccessful coup in Petrograd, and assured us that this time the rogue admiral will triumph. However, he once again requests support from the Entente. We owe Kolchak nothing, and maybe he's not that useless. Or maybe he's not that useless. How should we answer? There's only 100 guns. So, yeah, we'll send them guns. I'll help out those guys. Anyways, back to the decisions. So right now, we have the influence of the British Isles is moderate, and popularity of King Edward is low. So, we can direct the exiles. British exiles are prominently placed within the Dominion of Canada. Once a year, King Edward has the ability to give them direction regarding where they should commit their efforts in supporting him. Well, direct the British exiles to either increase their own influence, increase the King's popularity, increase the country's political power and stability, or build an off-site factory. Each year lasts a year or requires a year to take effect. In all cases, but the British exiles increase their own influence, a level of their influence is expended. Active for influence of British exiles will decrease. We can also suppress them. Suppress the exiles. Having the British exiles wield so much influence in the Dominion of Canada is not in our best interests. Chorlian's elected in France in the 5th Anglo-Afghani War. So who's leading that? Ah, Sebastien Fair, if I've said that right. Anyways, back in here. I need to read the rest of this. Oh, Black Monday. Just when we thought we were almost through the doldrums of the Great Depression, the German economic markets have experienced a massive crash, which has come to be dubbed Black Monday. While the Canadian economy isn't as tied to the German markets as some, the ripples have been felt throughout the world, particularly in the United States, a market we are particularly dependent upon. This setback is difficult to take, though Prime Minister King has assured the country we'll make it through this, just as we have the dark years prior. Now is the time for us to join together and work as we never have before. So that modifies the Great Depression, which of course isn't great right now. Okay, the King's first address. As King Edward prepares his first radio address to the Empire, he must consider what his message will be. His Privy Council is, of course, urging him to promote the cause of retaking the Home Isles. R.B. Bennett, the leader of the Conservative Party and the official opposition, suggests that he use his platform to endorse them for the upcoming election, saying that he will serve the cause of war far better. Others, meanwhile, suggest that supporting the current Prime Minister and government will go a long way to mending fences and maintaining stability, though it could also be seen as a tactic endorsement of the Liberal Party's position. He will support the Canadian government. We need to support them, I think. Right, status of the Privy Council. Let's go ahead and do that. So I think King Edward supports the government. In his radio address, the King has spoken to the nation and it has electrified it. From Vancouver to St. John, from Toronto to the Arctic, Canadians everywhere buzz with excitement after hearing a charismatic and forceful speech celebrating Canadian progress and potential. In it, King Edward unexpectedly complimented Prime Minister Mackenzie King on the work of his government and told Canadians that now, more than ever, they needed to band together in a common cause against the enemies that would threaten them all. The 20th century shall be Canada's century. So we lose some war support, but we gain a little bit of stability. So, you know, tit for tat, really. Royal address. King Edward is not currently occupied elsewhere, but he's not. We can also support the Canadian Prime Minister, which I guess will, yeah, that will increase the support. The Austrians have withdrawn from Italy. So I was reading this one. What does this do? We need to begin extorting some influence of our own to stop their efforts at controlling the Canadian government. Right, so we don't want the British Exiles to take complete control. Oh, is that maybe when, you know how when we were playing in Scotland, King Edward's, he abdicated the throne. Is that maybe when the British Exiles take over? Is that maybe what happens? They're like, oh, let's get the other King George in. It's like, oh well, that might be true, but I don't know. Anyways, there goes China into, well, wait, what? Nanjing, you seem so much bigger than usual. Surely this will collapse in here. It has to. Ah, there we go. I was gonna say, aha, that's better. Oh, who did Anqing? Shangguan's compliance. Okay, Anqing, who are you? Oh, Beijing cooperation, right. Qing have got themselves an ally this time. Puyai might survive a little bit longer. I can't remember what this does for them. Is it as bad? Yes, a pretty hefty thing. Restoration of democracy in Australasia. So we'll see what happens there. Got anything else we really want to do? Well, at least we're getting weekly stability from doing that. Didn't mean to bloody click on it. Removers in the Carpathans. The death of Pies. Anqing's declared war on the left Kuomintang. We're going to start exercising our boys. And I guess we'll just sit there. Hoping we're going to get New England. Writ of election issued. The House of Commons has issued the writ of election, calling for general elections to be held in October of this year. Both the Liberals and the Conservatives have already begun campaigning, and the general sentiment is that this election will be an important one. Does the country push hard towards a confrontation with the Union of Britain, or does it take a more cautious approach and focus on building up Canada's strength and that of the other dominions? The Liberals favour the latter, while the Conservatives and the British Exiles heavily favour the former. Well, of course, they heavily favour the former. It is, after all, expected of them. That is why we have not elected the Tories. They can stay away. Now, do we have... Yeah, we have CD Howe. Yes, Ernest Lapointe. Is that not... Oh. Okay. First International Congress, we don't care for that. The British government in exile has operated on emergency powers for the last 10 years, existing without elections and unable to exercise legal influence outside of their status as the King's Privy Council. Recently, however, there have been indications that Prime Minister Austen Chamberlain's time is up. Many exiles see him as partly responsible for the loss of the home Wales, and been urging King Edward to replace him. We could push the King to appoint a more moderate candidate, however, some more likely to work with the Canadian government. We could also urge the King to call for an election among the exiles in Canada, though how much of a legal mandate that would give the new Prime Minister is questionable. Still, it's more democratic than an appointee. Let the King pick Chamberlain's replacement, which we get Henry Page Croft, which influence of the British exiles will increase. We must push for a moderate candidate, or a vote by the exiles should be organised. A vote by the exiles should be organised. Let's do that. Let's do the Imperial Conference of 1936. Why was I going to say 42? The Moines Commission. This is with the West Indies Federation. With the recently degraded state of the West Indies economy causing an organized labour movement within the region. This has been a cause for some concern on our part. The Canadian people have always felt close to those within the West Indies Federation due to the similar upbringing from colony to a British-led federation, increasing the desire for a formalised search into the region and its problems. This has resulted in the formation of the Moines Commission, expected to go around to each colony within the Federation and see exactly what the problems are. Starting in the colony of Guyana. The officials in charge of this are Walter Guinness, first Baron Moyne as the lead, Dr. Mary Blacklock, who works in tropical medicine, Professor F. Ingledow, who has experience in agriculture, economist Hubert Henderson, Sir Percy McKinnon, who is representing Canadian financial interests, female Liberal politician Cora Taylor Castleman, noted anti-socialist trade unionist Walter Citron, first Baron Citron, and finally Conservative politician Ralph Ashington. And together the objective is to investigate the problems in the West Indies starting a week from now. Let's hope our worry is unfounded. Who knows, they're probably going to end up flipping, aren't they? So, don't know how we can increase the King's support, but I guess with time. Request gun shipment. The government of the West Indies has requested 1,000 rifles from the Great War as a means to raise their army. As of now, the West Indies has trouble getting a considerable force due to the limited training of the army and lack of gun production, so our help in this matter would be greatly appreciated. Oh, of course we help, but that now means we actually do have enough guns to go ahead and do that, so it's fine. Right, maybe once... I think what we'll do is we'll probably just go through all of these straight away. Pius XII has been elected. I do want to get through a decent bit of this as well, just because it will help get our industry sorted. Plus, start modify the Great Depression. Overhauling the Navy would also be quite beneficial though, because we are going to need to rely upon that. Bennett accuses Liberals of inaction. With the effects of black money still being felt in Canada, R.B. Bennett has taken the offensive and accused Mackenzie King and the Liberals of gross inaction. Not only on the economic management of the country, but what he suggests is an inevitable war that will determine the fate not only of Canada but the entire world. Canada, he says, should be pushing hard for the coming war and suggests that if it fails to do so, the Entente shall be caught once again in a weak and indefensible position. Considering the large crowd he attracted at his latest speech in Halifax, there are a large number of Canadians who agree with him. No! The Tories! Be gone. America demands war debts. It came as a surprise to the Canadian government, but the ambassador from the United States has demanded that the Canadian government immediately begin repaying the war debts incurred by the British Empire during the Weltkrieg. While the Americans are gripped in an economic crisis, one Canada has, to an extent, avoided, they must know the Canadians can never repay the debt, not all at once. At least, though the old... at least. Though the old United Kingdom was on its way to repayment, there was a tacit agreement after the British Revolution that the debts wouldn't continue to be repaid until the home islands were recaptured. For the Americans to demand it now, They must either be desperate or must be catering to the more like an isolationist elements in their government. Whatever the reason, we cannot do as they demand. They are outraged. Do you know what they can do? They can shove it. Pass this move. Oh. They're not doing reconciliation with me. Wow, they're just going to block trade, basically. The 1936 Stanley Cup. Right, come on, Toronto. You can do this. I'm hoping this conference is... Yes, Toronto! Good on you, boys. I'm hoping the Imperial Conference will give me the opportunity to increase the King's support. Because right now, low is pretty bad. So if I kind of like... Oh, his popularity will increase. Good. If I kind of like aid the Dominions more than just thinking, oh, we need to retake the UK, then I think we'll boost it even higher. King Edward is the first British monarch not to be coronated in the halls of Westminster Abbey. Instead, royal planners held an elaborate ceremony in Christ Church Cathedral, Ottawa's largest Anglican church. Anglican, maybe. A church. There, the Archbishop of Canterbury, himself a British exile, performed the rites as expected by tradition, with a throng of media paying close attention to every move. Rather than making his first public appearance afterwards in the balcony of Buckingham Palace, King Edward instead appeared in the balcony of Rideau Hall, the official royal residence, where he was greeted by a throng of enthusiastic Canadians. It's official. He's now free to go on tour or take other actions. Fantastic. We could begin the royal tour. Royal address to the Entente. We'll add war sports. Let's go ahead and begin a royal tour. King Edward tours the Dominion of Canada. Speaking to a large crowd in the capital, King Edward commended the Canadian contribution to the Entente and kicked off a 3-month tour of the country. While King Edward had expected to meet with officials and dignitaries throughout the Dominion of Canada, with at least one parade planned to be held in his honour in New Brunswick, newspaper has been trumpeting the King's itinerary. I've probably said it wrong. I am great with English. With large crowds expected at each major stop, the Canadian military leaders are reportedly also eager to consult with the King's attachés regarding Entente's coordination. Nice. Okay, fantastic. Right, so he's away doing that for 90 days. Fix of the royal tour. Fantastic. Don't think it's really going to do all that much for us right now, but preparing the liberation. Why are you doing that now? There's some long decisions for seizing Moroccan land should they be vulnerable. Oh. Well, we'll see, but we're restored a suspended constitution and Patin is staying around. Not seen the Empire return. Or the Kingdom for a while, I don't think. I'm trying to remember how many games I've played recently. That's all pretty good there. Let's go ahead and get the QF2 pounder, because I kind of do want anti-tank, because, well, they're going to have tanks, surprisingly enough. Anyways, here's the Imperial Conference finishing. With the 8th Imperial Conference getting ready to begin, the Prime Minister should consider what our focus should be. Should we advocate that the Dominion of Canada is best suited to be retaking the home isles as soon as possible, or should we instead focus on improving the various dominions of the Empire so they are better prepared for war in the long run? Yeah, Imperial trade doesn't really help us out all that much. Dominions receive better Imperial bonuses. Yeah, let's help them out. The CCF appeals to the unemployed. The recently formed Cooperative Commonwealth Federation Party, led by J.S. Woodsworth, has been making large gains in the polls as Woodsworth speaks to groups of unemployed labourers and factory workers across the country. The party's Democratic Socialist platform has resulted in accusations of it being funded and run by syndicalist sympathisers, but its message of alleviating the suffering of farmers and workers under capitalism has hit a chord even so. Regardless, its popularity seems not concentrated in Western Canada. Seems most concentrated rather, and the idea it might have a chance at forming a government is remote. Democratic socialism, yeah, it doesn't really make much sense, but fate of the Senate. Right, anyways, here we go. Today the Imperial Conference begins with leaders representing the remnants of the British Empire gathering in Canada after an opening ceremony headed by Prime Minister Anthony Eden, head of the British government in exile. The Prime Minister of Canada is the first to speak, giving a rousing speech. The British Empire cannot be called British without liberating our fellow Britons from the horrors and tyranny that exists within the so-called Union of Britain. Towards that end, he called on all the Dominions to support Canada in building up its strength to meet that challenge. Bravo, Prime Minister. Popularity of the King isn't moderate, that's good. British Indian delegate speaks. Next to speak is the delegate from the Dominion India, who gives a speech about the dire need for investment in capital funds. The British exiles have channeled so much of their funds in the help of Canada through this Great Depression, feels that perhaps some of it could be spared to assist the British Indian economy. Wow, so they get Imperial investment, which gives them consumer goods -10 and construction speed +20 for 180 days. Not terrible for them, actually. That'll be good going for them. The Australasian delegate speaks. The next to speak is the delegate from the Australasian Confederation, who spoke at length about the need for scientific investment. The economy needs modern science in order to not further stagnate, he said, while the military needs the most modern weapons. He asked the Dominion send what research assistance they could to the Australasian Confederation so they could better prepare for the war. They just get research speed +20 for 180 days. Be interesting to see what the others get. West Indian delegate speaks. The next to speak is the delegate from the West Indies Federation, who gives a speech about how the West Indian military is in dire need of proper training and the upgrading of its firearms. Without such, he fears that the West Indies Federation will be ill-equipped to assist in the distant war against the Syndicalists, and requests that his fellow Dominions send whatever advisors they can to help. Nice, they get infantry equipment production -10, total artillery production cost -10, and division training time -20 for 180 days. Okay. Who else we got? Our Sardinia? Sardinia won't come. That is it. That should be the end of the conference. Yep. The Imperial Conference of 1936 is now over. We can now focus on putting into practice the decisions that came about at the conference. There's hope that perhaps this marks the dawn of a new era for the Dominions and a strengthening of bonds. Only time will tell. God save the King. Didn't actually do what I kind of expected doing, increase King Edward's popularity, but alas, not much I can do there. Gosh, we've only got to May. Maybe I should stop reading all the pop-ups. And again, I can't really remember what has changed lore-wise for Canada there. Nanjing looks like it's actually kind of winning, but kind of losing at the same time. Oh, the Moines Commission returns. The Moines Commission has officially returned today, and the news is not especially pleasant. We received reports of what they refer to as slavery in a different form, though the plantation economy still being the main form of development within the islands. Among this, there are many other problems, like the United Fruit Company promoted prostitution in Jamaica, class divides in Guyana between Indo and Afro Guyanese, oil spilling in Trinidad and Tobago. Walter Guinness himself said that this generation is suffering from a century of neglect from the Empire, and they expect the West Indies government to handle the problem immediately. Needless to say, many Canadians are disgusted by the happenings in the West Indies. Those who they see are very similar to them in ways. It's left a stain in the Imperial family and the current government, one that the West Indies will hopefully erase soon for us. How could it have been so bad? How could it have been so bad? But we will sort this out. Obtaining funding. Is that funding from me by any chance? Oh, the Moines report's done, so they're obtaining funding. Suggestion from Walter Guinness and the Commission. Okay, fixing the economy. Attempt to sell sugar. Tapping into the American markets. I have to wait for that. Ending the Depression. Caribbean economy. What does that give them? A little bonuses. That's not too shabby. Let's hope they don't go down this. Declare the Confederation. Becomes free. Oh, okay. Don't want that either. The conscription debate begins. As expected, the most continuous issue in the election is proven to be that of conscription. Both the Liberals and Conservatives oppose the bill that has become known as C7, which would shape our preparation for over the coming years. Whether Bill C7 includes conscription, however, is the key element. French Canadians in Quebec are, in particular, vehemently opposed to the idea of general conscription, forcing them to fight in a British war. But the French are fighting with us. And thus Liberal promises of not implementing it have seen them make great gains in that province. Conservatives, meanwhile, say that Canada doesn't have the manpower to fight any war without conscription. The war, when it comes, means conscription sooner or later, and they say, for all our sakes, it should be sooner. This could get ugly. So we have got divided nation now. Which, nation split between Conservative and the British Exiles on one side, hoping to force Empire into preparing for war in Europe, and Mackenzie King's Liberals on the other, putting Canada's sovereignty first and unwilling to commit to the country to disastrous war. It's hoped that the coming election will decide the issue once and for all. That is very true. Construction 1 is now done. Let's grab construction 2. And we... oh gosh, I didn't realise we only had one civvy building. We currently do have 26, so that's not bad. What I'll actually do is just spin a couple of these. And that'll get us up to, yeah, 30. Okay, we'll get you out of the way. Since the arrival of the exiles to Canada, King George appointed many of their numbers to the Canadian Senate, mainly as a reward for valiant service to the defence of the Empire. Since King Edward's ascension, the appointments of exiles have continued to the point where the Senate is often referred to as the Canadian House of Lords. Many members of the government are saying the time has come to insist on Senate reform, passing a law requiring senatorial appointments to be confirmed by the House of Commons. Considering the Senate has the power to reject bills, this could result in a showdown with the King, unless he decides that it is better not to anger the government of his host country while in exile. Oh, we need to reform. Urge the King to appoint more Canadians. It is the King's prerogative to choose as he wishes. So... oh gosh, we need reform at once. Urge the King to appoint more Canadians. I don't want to have draft Bill C7 just disregarded straight away, vetoed before it even gets near. I guess what we'll do is we could address the army. But I think we're going to go for the Crown Corporations anyways. Gilbert K. Chesterton dies. Because this is going to give us Bill Crown Corporation in Toronto, Montreal, arms factories in Ottawa and Quebec, and a 100% research bonus for one of those. Not bad. And then we can jump in and create the IEDC. We can create Isaac as well. Demonstration at King's Speech. A campaign stopped by Mackenzie King in Toronto was marred today when it met by a large demonstration organised by the Orange Order of Canada. The order, which celebrates Canadian ties with the British Empire, has been campaigning strenuously for greater action against the Union of Britain, has declared the Liberal no conscription position as an outrage that threatens the very survival of the Empire. The racist chanting and shouting prevented King from continuing the speech. An altercation between Liberal supporters and the Orange Order almost ended up in riot before the police were finally called in to intervene. They shouldn't have been there. We're keeping with the market Liberals. We're at 50% support for them, so they will be sticking around. Coup d'etat in Siam. Just the usual, really. And Peter, is it Peter or Peter? Peter Wrangel is here, if I'm even saying that right. See what he gets up to. Russia's been kind of sucking recently in the playthroughs where I've not been playing as them. Of course, when I played as them on stream recently. Done amazing. Right, we should maybe consider actually changing up some... actually, no, we can't. We only have 5 experience. Oh, well. Right, I think we shall just... oh, White Sun over China. With chaos reigning in China, reliable news is harder to obthan than ever. Despite the censorship implemented by the warlords and the Qing government, a young journalist made his way into the with cleverness and courage through the war-torn lands of the former League to the south to the mountains of the Fujian base area of Kuomintang. Edgar Snow, who came to Shanghai in 1928 from the US, works for an English newspaper in the city. His bravery to cross the front lines and open sympathy to the cause of the KMT has opened his way to interview the leadership of the uprising. What's over China hit the stores? Okay, it's a book. I always wondered what that was. Anyways, guys, I'm going to leave that episode there. Apologies that we really didn't get up to too much, but at least we got halfway through the year and we kind of really know the situation in Dominion of Canada now. So, yeah, we'll hopefully get into intervention in the American Civil War next episode. So until then, take care, and I'll see you all very soon. Cheer bye, then out.